get it one. About 2 months ago, one of my favorite YouTubers who I follow a lot, Potato Jet, actually released a video about the Aria Trinity. Now, for those that don't know what it is, it's basically a stabilizer system for these very high-end professional cameras that you more than likely see them use to film Hollywood films. Now, it does amazing what it can do, but it also comes at a crazy amazing price that a lot of us can't afford. So then I just completely forgot about it. And the last week or so, I've started to see videos pop up about a DIY or budget version of this. Now I'm going to give credits to James Matthew for creating this name because I think it is a great name there, and he called it the Minity. And so I'm going to call it the Minity as well, or the poor man's version of Minity. So what that really involves is basically combining your gimbal system and a glide cam system. So it takes basically the advantages of the gimbal and takes care of the disadvantages of the glide cam, and it takes the advantages of the glide cam and takes away the disadvantages of the gimbal. So basically they counteract each other very well, and I loved it as well too. So I'm not going to really create a video too much about that because I think there's a few videos out there, and I'm going to give some credits out to some other YouTubers out there. Peter McClellan, which I do follow, and he's done some few videos on that, and also Momentum Productions. Now I think he was the original creator idea of this idea of combining these two devices together to make this Minity in a way. Now I'm not going to go through the advantages and disadvantages of this because I think you can probably work it out very soon, but what I'm going to do is actually do a bit of a balancing setup and some little extra tips on how to control this as more from what I've actually noticed and from what my experience here. I'm not that amazing as a film creator, so I won't put them out, but I at least can give you some ideas on how to control, make your film even better than what I can more than likely make. So first off, let's balance this up. First off, we need to have the plate. So get your plate off your glide cam. Now, first off, I've just got a little quick snap here, but pretty much where you want to have the gimbal near the middle of the plate of the glide cam. So I'm just going to take my gimbal here, and I'll just pop it in because I've already got set to there, so it just makes my job a little bit easier anyway. So that's the first thing out, and then I'm just going to slide this in and then lock it in there. Now I know mine's around about 10.5 or so. That's what I normally have at. Now the top tip here is to actually turn your, now you do need to have your gimbal pre-balanced there first, okay? So I'm not going to create a video about it. There are other videos about balancing your gimbal. Pretty much make sure that's all balanced up first before you even connect it to the glide cam. The next thing you need to do is turn on your gimbal. So I'll just turn it on, and it makes it easier to actually turn on your gimbal because then you don't have to balance your glide cam twice. So once you've got that turned on, that's great. Now what we're going to do is, now you can probably see I know some people use light stands for this. I'm actually repurposing an old broken tripod, and I've just got a stick coming out of it to actually hold my thing. It's actually probably a bit heavier duty than a light stand maybe anyway. But anyway, so I'm just gonna, and also you probably notice I'm actually doing this outdoors as well. I'm actually not doing it indoors in my studio. It's just because quite simply, more than likely you and I will more than likely be doing this out in the field. So that's why I'm actually just doing it outdoors here, and I've actually got a bit of wind here, so this is actually a good example of what I actually wanted to explain as well too. So the wind here is anywhere between, at the moment, between 7 to about 12 knots, so it's just varying at the moment, so it's a little bit wind here. I'm in a bit of a a bit of a cover here, so that's a little bit better. So hopefully you won't get too much wind here, but out once you get to the garden where we're doing a little bit of filming to explain what some of the tips I have, you'll probably see some little wind there anyway. So, sorry, now me gabbling about. So what you want to actually also do is make sure you set the pivot point of your glide cam. At least make sure you got some room here first here, because if you have this too close to up here, then you really can't have the really nice range that you will normally have from a glide cam here, because you'll be using this up here a fair bit as well too. So make sure that is set a little bit far back from there. So just to give you, and I normally set a little bit enough so I don't whack my hand too much on that as well too. But you may have to bring it up a little bit. It really depends on your camera here, because it's quite heavy and you're going to have to put a lot of weights, is what I did. I actually put all the weights I had on my glide cam on there just to balance this thing anyway. Anyway, so what idea, after that you've got this set here. Now after that you need to actually balance the glide cam itself. So I'm going to be at this left and right and left, so I'm just going to quickly bring that back to normal, to center, and I'm going to really adjust this, sorry,
and I'm not really on level ground here, and that's probably my fault there. So, but that's how it is. If you don't get level ground, that's how it is. So at the moment, look at that. That's just coming off really wonkily now. So because that's really wonkily, it's now coming to forward. So I'm just gonna bring that forward. So I just turn knobs because this is the Devon Grand series one here. That's really nice. Okay, it's now still coming back. So I'm just gonna bring this forward a little bit more. And we're a lot better stabilized. Now it's tilting to the left here. So I'm gonna bring more to the right. Nope, more to the right. And again, I've got a bit of a wind factor happening here. Oh, it's coming back, so I'm going to bring it forward a little bit, and hopefully we're starting to stabilize it really nicely here. So there we go. I think we're pretty good. Forward. Sorry, I'm just taking a little bit of time, but now that's all stabilized, this side and that side. So that's all good. Next thing we need to do is to try and get this to balance itself. So at the moment, now to balance this thing itself, I have to change this here for the weights here to the length of this weight. So at the moment, it's just dropping here. Now, I'm just going to bring this up. I'm untying this, and I'll just quickly bring the, whoa, that's a bit too much, but I'm just going to let that go. How are we going? Oh, it's getting pretty there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I'll just bring it a little bit more inner. Now, the other thing I like to say is try and get this, so this black plate, to try and get it perpendicular. I know some people don't do it, but I do it there because it's actually easier, so you don't whack yourself on there, because more than likely, you would actually, so what I want to talk about is having this here perpendicular straight to the base plate of the glide cam. And the reason why I say that is because you don't really want this whacking you on the back when this is in this sort of mode here. Because if this is down here, okay, you can then whack yourself all the time, and that's really annoying there. So I personally would actually make sure this is straight first, and then I will actually then pretty much have that running at a pretty nice angle there. So that's just coming there. So after that, I've got this. How's that? That's pretty good there. So you'll see now that's now balanced. I'm just going to tie that off. And that's pretty much it. You've pretty much got this balance. You can just do this. Now, this is not a light setup, I tell you that. It takes a fair bit to actually hold this thing. But once it's balanced, it's a lot easier to hold here. As you can see, that's just moving around and about. So now, one of the things I like to say is when you're actually holding this, so is to actually make sure, now you can actually do the glide cam mode, but you'll find doing the glide cam mode is actually difficult because it wants to pretty much go back forward. So when you actually do your filming on forward motion, when you're filming like this, it's actually easier to go over the, for me, is easier to actually hold this, and I can now tuck my shoulder in very well, kind of like thing, and I can then just put this kind of over my shoulder like this, and that's really nice here. And what I do is I actually create a little ring here with my fingers, and I actually put it around here and then control it by moving it this way here, rather than my usual way what I do with my glide cam where I actually do the pinching mode here. So I actually use this way here and then move it towards here and use the pivot point here. I can actually stay a bit longer when this is sort of this sort of system here like that. So and that allows me to do that, and I can then release the strings around here. So I find that is a lot easier to do, and I can have this really pivot because I don't have this, and I find that very, very annoying when I can't do it for very long. But when it's like this sort of mode, it is actually really nice. And you find it's really buttery smooth here. And like I said, I just use this sort of thing here too, do that. Now, like I said, you can't really do your glide cam mode where you actually sort of do this because this thing wants to come back up. And you don't really want that to happen because then you're just over hitting yourself. Well, and you probably find you get very tired here as well too. So this way, when you actually, I'm ready to tie here. So this way, where you can actually put it over the shoulder, put it over your shoulder, and you can pretty much just glide it in here. So I'm going to actually do it this way here. But pretty much you're just going to glide it off here. It's really easy to do. And then you can just quickly move it across up here, there. So I find that is a very nice way to actually control this sort of minity setup here without having control. Now, I'm going to have to talk to you about this panning thing. Now, this panning thing, what I had to do was actually set my gimbal here. Normally I have my gimbal, if it by itself, I will normally have the actual pan axis, the pan speed of the motor to around very low, to around about 50 to 40 is what I normally like to put it at. But
when you're on this Minity mode, you've got to bring that back up. And I pretty much had to bring it to nearly to where it was default, which is around about 80 to about 90 there, speed for the pan mode, just so it can keep up with this panning mode here. So remember, with the pan for the Minity is pretty much 12 when it's up right here, but then when you come down to this side here, when it's horizontal, you need to actually use an arc form to actually pan this thing here. So that's how you got to pan, is the arc form here. And like I said, once you bring that up, it's a lot easier to work with. So it's absolutely fantastic that you can actually do that. But man, you can create some crazy shots there. Now the wind has actually died down a fair bit somehow. But what I want to show you is with the Minity, you need to change your method how you do the orbit sort of filming of the shot itself. So normally with the GlideCam by itself, you actually would do is hold your GlideCam as per normal, and as you orbit, you then just sort of do your little micro adjustments to here. But as you can see, as I'm doing this wants to actually automatically try and film itself doing this way here. So the back wants to come up because that's how we balanced it. So it's very hard to actually do your orbit field. So I'm just going to orbit this lemon tree here just to show you what I'm example here. So you would normally just go orbit here, and you'll find it's actually not as easy as it used to be because it just wants to come up. So what you need to do instead is actually bring it up here. Okay, again, use my little ring ID here, and pretty much you can actually now walk a lot easier too while you're actually doing the orbited field. So now you can just kind of orbit, and you can just hold your little thing, and like I said, a ring here, and then it's very easy just to hold this ring here. I'm not barely even holding it, and just let this slide down this way here, and pretty much you can just walk around. It's so much easier now to do that, to actually do this sort of feel with the GlideCam and the gimbal. Even with the gimbal, that was hard as, because you're pretty much going to do this. I don't have my other thing here, but pretty much I'll be going like this, holding this out here, and I'm concentrating while I'm actually holding the gimbal there. But it's a lot easier with the Minity, I can definitely tell you that, where I can actually walk straight and just keep an eye, because I can then do a nice little circle properly without having to concentrate on the gimbal is actually facing towards there a lot easier. Definitely a win there for the Minity. I like to mention, make sure you do not hold this at the back here when you're actually filming with the Minity, because quite simply, you're just translating this sort of movement here into the gimbal, which then defeats the purpose of actually having the gimbal helping you out. So make sure you get that nice little circle here. Again, that will then help you out in that this thing takes care of itself a lot better, and you're just guiding it very slowly here. I hope this will give you some nice little tips on firstly how to balance and how to actually control and try and make this work a lot better. It's definitely not a setup you use all the time, because it is a heavy setup here if you don't have the best. And I would only use, you can really do short amount of filming periods of this before you need to rest it in a period of time there. So definitely, if you've got time, you can actually set this up and then do many takes. This is a great setup because you're going to get some really crazy, nice, buttery smooth film out of there. But more than likely, if you're just, I don't know, run and gun, just go with your gimbal system only, and that would be fine anyway, because you still can do things there. But if you've got time to set up and got time to do multiple takes, this is one hell of a setup, I tell you that. And just remember, guys, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting, and I'll see you in the next video.